Hello, good evening everyone, and welcome to the 2026 election hustings here in St Martin for senators. I'm Hannah Shelswell, and I'm going to be taking us through the proceedings this evening until 9 o'clock. It is really great to see you all. Thank you very much for being here and for taking the time. We are live streaming this evening to the vote.je YouTube account, so a big welcome to everyone who's joining us online. Just to let you know that closed captions are available and you can use those by pushing the button at the bottom of your screen. You can also access a recording of this, which will be updated onto the vote.je website and the YouTube channel after the event. Now, I'm sure that you are aware, but you can only vote for 9 of the candidates who've put themselves forward for this role. There are 9 island-wide seats, and we've drawn lots tonight as to where all the candidates are sitting. We do that each time, so we mix things up and things are fair. But in alphabetical order, your candidates are Martin Aliga, Tom Binney, Mark Boliat, Alan Brecken, Carl Bush, Guy DeFay, Lyndon Farnham, Ian Gorst, Serena Kirsten Guthrie, Mary Lehegara, Alan Lepavu, Steve Luce, and Alan McLean, who are all independents. Sam Mezek, Reform Jersey. Also Helen Miles, Elaine Miller, and Bernard Place, also independent. The candidates have agreed this evening that they will all deliver a 2-minute speech, and then we will open the floor for questions. So candidates will have a 30-second warning that they're going to need to stop talking with one ding, and then they will hear a double ding, and that's when they really have to stop talking. Those are the rules. Unfortunately, Martin Aliga is unable to attend this evening because he is taking an exam. So he's requested that I start by delivering his speech. I won't be answering questions on his behalf, you'll be pleased to know, but I will start with this evening. But I can't do it quite in the style that he does either. He's quite a personality. But greetings to you all, St Martin's parishioners. My name is Martin Aliga, your senatorial candidate, requesting you to invest your votes in me so that I am part of the next government and one of the 9 senators. I want to thank my colleagues for accepting the moderator to read my brief message to you. This is already a positive sign of teamwork going here. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend tonight's hustings here in St Martin because I have an exam to attend as part of my ongoing training in becoming a therapeutic counsellor. For the last 10 years, I've been working as a residential childcare officer, and one thing I came to learn is the increase in mental health problems in our children and our young people. For the last 5 years, I've paid to study this course so that I can offer therapeutic counselling as my means of contributing to the island in supporting to alleviate the ever-growing backlog of islanders looking for mental health support, emotional and social support. For more about my policies and values, please visit my website and take time to look at my Facebook page and my YouTube channel for more information. I am here therefore requesting each one of you to consider investing in me your votes because I would like to be part of the solution and not the silence. Thank you. So we're going to start at this end this evening, and the first to deliver a speech is Martin McLean.
Who?
Oh, Alan McLean, so sorry. Martin Aliga, good start for me this evening. Alan, apologies. Is that mic working?
I think so.
It
Can
is,
everybody hear
okay.
clearly? Yep,
The
lovely.
timer is beginning. Over to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is probably the most important election in a generation. Our young people are leaving. Families are under pressure. Costs are too high. Government is spending more than it earns. This is not sustainable. We face global instability. Difficult decisions lie ahead that will take political skill and experience. I have delivered results under pressure before. I served as Economic Development Minister during the global financial crisis years. We didn't just talk, we acted. We merged the ports to save £1 million per annum of taxpayers' money. We created Digital Jersey and Jersey Business. We backed local enterprise. We introduced EasyJet and re-established the Heathrow route. As Treasury Minister, I delivered the medium-term financial plan. It created financial discipline, controlled spending, and balanced budgets. I expanded the student finance scheme to allow more young islanders to access further education. Now we must relentlessly cut government waste. We must modernise public service delivery and adopt technology to cut costs while protecting frontline services. We need a government who understands how to build a strong competitive economy, to pay for those public services by removing unnecessary bureaucracy, regulation and red tape. I'm not seeking to return because I want a political career. I hope to return because I care deeply about this island. We need a Jersey that works for everyone, a more affordable Jersey, achieved by a strong competitive economy, freezing fuel duty, capping government charges, increasing tax thresholds, and introducing competition. Our young people deserve a future here, and our senior citizens deserve to feel valued and safe. I'm confident that our best days still lie ahead, but only if we have the courage and skills to make the difficult long-term decisions quickly. My name is Alan McLean, and I would greatly appreciate one of your votes, one of your 9 votes. Thank you.
Alan, thank you very much. Sam Mezek.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here this evening. My name is Sam Mezek. I'm Jersey born and raised before studying law in London. And for the last 12 years, I've been a member of the States of Jersey, serving in various capacities, including as Chief Scrutineer and most recently, the Minister for Housing. Now that the weather's improved a little bit, I was lucky to spend a few hours out here in St Martin meeting voters, and in particular I went round the corner to Le Court Clos, which is a sheltered housing parish trust, which I think is a fantastic example of a great community out in the countryside, providing older people with an option to live somewhere that's affordable, comfortable, and freeing up a family-sized home for a young growing family to move into. And as the Minister for Housing for the last 2 years, I instituted a new right-sizing policy, which I hope in years to come will see more of those kind of developments out in the island, rather than only building flats in town, which is something that we need to move away from, I think, and focus on decent family homes and homes for downsizers as well. But the reason that I'm running for re-election is because I want to play a part in the next government to help steer the government back on track and provide that balance that is much needed as we face the challenges ahead. I think that that next government is going to have to address the cost of living, prepare Jersey for those challenges, and restore accountability to government, particularly when it comes to our public finances. I believe that in the last 12 years, I've shown myself to be an experienced politician, a decisive minister, and a capable leader of a team that is united and constructive. And I've shown also that I'm a team player, able to work with those who don't necessarily share my political views on every subject. So when it comes to the 7th of June, when you're considering who to cast your votes for, please consider me for one of those to bring that experience and balance as Jersey faces those challenges ahead. Thank you very much.
Steve Luce.
Good evening, everybody. It's always good to be here in the public hall. The community is everything about St Martin, and for the last 36 years, I've had the pleasure of working with so many great groups of people here in the parish. I moved here in September '88 and farmed at Cottage Farm. I was a roads inspector. I still attend regularly at chapel and church. I've been helping out at the Fete and Bonfire Committee since I can't remember when. I've been on the lifeboat crew for over 30 years. This parish is all about working together. I was on the Housing Association that built Clos de Troquet, a small part of the team that redeveloped the old school. Along with that building, the new school, this hall, the church, the pub, the village green, you have something here in St Martin that is the envy of the whole island, and it's been an honour to be a very small part of that. Since 2011, it's also been a privilege to represent the St Martin community in the States Assembly. When I knocked on doors 4 years ago, just before the election, parishioners were very unhappy about losing the senators. So I supported their return, and it's only right that I now stand for that position. I think ministers should be senators, and if lucky enough to be elected, I would wish, if possible, to retain my current role as Minister for the Environment. I've done as much as I can to help and promote farming and fishing in the last few years, and I want to carry on working with farmers and fishermen to provide more local food for local consumption. But I also want to continue to help St Martin to find properly available sites, to expand Coed Clos, to achieve more parking across the road here, and to get some affordable homes built with enough parking provision and drains. There's so much more I could say, so much more I want to do, but if you could give me one of your votes in the election, I'd be extremely grateful. Thank you.
Guy DeFay is next, and I'm going to pass you my microphone because we're just having a few issues with that one, Guy, so if you'd like to take this.
One. Hi, I'm Guy, and I tell you, in St Martin, a very well-ordered parish, but I know you're all concerned about the cost of living, and I can tell you from my journalistic experience, things ain't looking good in the big world out there. In fact, everybody's predicting a global recession. Now, that's something that's going to hit us, unfortunately, because Jersey imports so much stuff. So what can we do locally? My suggestion, and basically I do creative ideas and lateral thinking, is cost of living will hit the lowest paid the hardest. So let's look at raising the exemption tax on income tax. Let's stick with GST, because as prices go up, the revenue coming to the government from that will increase, and we will just have to take a little bit more off the very well-off who barely notice when prices go up. The add-on to that I haven't managed to get in before now is, of course, if the revenue total drops, that will oblige government of Jersey to look at how it's spending money, instead of spending money like there's a money tree in this island. They need a bit of pressure, and lack of revenue may be the thing to sort things out. I also think, in terms of parochial approach, that parishes should be more entrepreneurial. For example, I think Ports of Jersey made a right mess of Gorey Harbour, and I think that the small ports would be better handled by management between the local boat owners and the parishes, who keep a much closer eye on what's going on. Entrepreneurial parishes will help to keep the rates down. More ideas to come, but that's enough from me.
Mary Lahegara.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. Born and raised in Jersey in a farming family, I've lived in the parish for 33 years. My husband David having finished a 6-year term as a duty centeneer, and I'm quite getting the expert as helping him drag trees into fields after the storms. 25 years in policing, being promoted as the first female inspector in Jersey, has given me a background in team working in public and private partnership, delivering community initiatives. I've employed a collaborative approach in my political career, both in scrutiny and as a minister. Health and Social Security Scrutiny Panel Chair, we delivered accommodation at Orchard House for those in mental health crisis, avoiding detention at the police station. As Minister with a broad portfolio, I've supported staff delivering laws in relation to fire and building safety, tall buildings, harassment and stalking laws. Laws with offences including emergency barring notices and orders, intimate image abuse, dissemination of intimate images, cyber flashing and no-fault divorce as an example. We need to increase our food resilience, which will help us with cost and the security. We need a holistic approach. From my perspective, we need to produce more and export less, which will reduce plastics, transport costs, improving our environment. Support and encourage on-island upskilling continual development using further and higher education is necessary so that we can promote on-island talent. Encouraging islanders to return following study, let's not say no to someone we think lacks experience, but say yes, and we will develop them further. Jersey's infrastructure has suffered from long-standing underinvestment. In relation to our hospital project, it's been lengthy and significant progress has been made in the last 2 years. I want to ensure that this project continues and doesn't get derailed again, costing islanders both financially and our health provision. I'm a qualified accounting technician and hold an LLB in law.
Alan Lepavu.
Good evening, St Martin's. My name's Alan Lepavu, and I'm standing because Jersey needs practical, community-focused leadership at a time where many islanders are under real pressure. Through my work with the Bode Foundation, young people, families, and community organisations, I have seen both the strength of our island and the strain many are under. Too many people are struggling with the cost of living. Too many families feel locked out of housing. And too many young people are questioning whether their future is here at all. That's not sustainable and needs urgent, practical action. I'm not a career politician and I'm not driven by ideology. I believe in listening, working collaboratively and focusing on what works. I believe Jersey works best when three parts move together. A strong economy driven by commerce, an effective, focused government that produces policies and legislation that improves the lives of islanders, and a supported charity and community sector properly funded where it delivers essential services. You won't always agree with my decisions, but you'll know it's thoughtful, balanced, and rooted in what's best for our community now and in the future. If elected, I will work hard, stay accessible, and focused on an outcomes-based accountability approach. Feel free to Google that. It might just show you something incredible. I'd be grateful for your support on the 7th of June, as I really would like to be the Children's Minister. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Ian Gorston, independent candidate, and I'm standing so that I can continue to be a strong voice for Jersey, defending our interests, promoting our economy, and building a sustainable future for our community. These are challenging times, and they call for experienced, calm, and serious leadership. People and businesses across the world are craving stability, and that is what Jersey must continue to offer. As Minister for External Relations, I have built strong relationships with Jersey's key political and economic partners. I've supported our financial services, agriculture, dairy, digital and creative industries to grow and find new markets. We have a resilient economy, but we cannot be complacent. That is why I want to drive forward our competitiveness strategy so that we deliver economic growth and embrace innovation in the face of increased global competition. Investment in frontline public services is only possible with a strong economy supporting a diverse range of local jobs. In recent years, government has grown at an unsustainable rate. I have been and I always will be a voice for restraint to control public spending and ensure you keep more of the money that you earn. Government should be an enabler and interfere less frequently in our lives. Honorary and voluntary service are central pillars of life in Jersey. We need to improve how we work with and support the voluntary sector, recognising that government does not always have the best answer. Jersey has always adapted to changing times. With strong, effective and proven leadership, we will do so again. And I ask for one of your votes on June the 7th. Thank you.
Elaine Miller.
Hello, my name is Elaine Miller. I was first elected as a deputy in 2022. Since then, I've been Treasury Minister and Minister for Social Security. Before being elected, I had a successful career in law. I was a Jersey advocate and I was the first woman to hold the office of Viscount. I tried to find effective solutions to problems and to make sensible, thoughtful decisions. I get things done and I've worked hard to deliver positive results. So I brought the proposition that reinstated the role of senator. I reduced the cost of GP visits by £20 and increased the Pension Plus benefit. I addressed cost of living issues by increasing other benefits and by short-term reductions in social security. And I've supported the important work to ensure that our financial services industry remains competitive. The cost of living remains a challenge. The cost of childcare, in particular, can put a family home out of reach, and I'd like to find better ways of providing for children. Alongside financial services, we must enable all businesses to thrive and grow our economy. I'll aim to simplify regulation and to promote growth by removing some of the barriers to new business. St Martin is a great example of how small businesses can really contribute to a sense of community and its quality of life. It's important that we continue to control government spending and remove inefficiency. This will help us put more money into reserves to ensure future resilience. I promote a population strategy that plans for the needs of young and old into the future, including education, careers, health and housing, particularly for older people. Above all, we have to focus on finding solutions that work for Jersey. I will continue working hard to deliver effective results that benefit our community and our economy. I will always put the interests of Jersey first, and I do hope you will vote for me. Thank you.
Bernard Place.
Good evening. My name is Bernard Place, and I'm standing as an independent candidate for senator because I believe Islanders are looking for practical and sensible answers to the pressures we face, especially the cost of living, housing and healthcare. After 40 years in public service, including many years as a registered nurse, I've worked from the front line to executive board level. I understand both the human impact of public services and just how difficult they are to run well. Jersey now needs to focus less on promises and more on making services work better. Healthcare is our largest public service and one of the biggest pressures on public finances. Islanders rightly want spending that supports doctors, nurses and frontline care, not unnecessary bureaucracy and duplication. Before asking Islanders to pay more, we should first ask whether services can be delivered more effectively and more sensibly. That means better organised services and better value for money that Islanders already pay. Now, this election is also an opportunity to widen the experience and perspectives in the States Assembly. Now, I respect those already serving, but there is value in adding practical public service experience to the Assembly. Many people who read my Jersey Evening Post articles describe my approach as sensible. Now, I'll take that, because after 40 years in public service, I've learnt that the loudest answer is not always the best one. The best solutions are usually practical, measured, sensible, and that is the approach I hope to bring to the States Assembly as one of your 9 senators.
Lyndon Farnham.
Thank you, Hannah. Good evening. St Martin, my name is Lyndon Farnham. I was born in Jersey. I have lived here all my life. I've raised my family here, and I'm standing for election because I care deeply about the type of island we're shaping for future generations. Around the world, we are seeing economic instability, rising costs, conflict, and growing pressure on living standards. And we feel those pressures here too. Since becoming Chief Minister in 2024, I have worked to restore stability across government, strengthen discipline in our public finances, and getting government working together again. And we have made some good progress. We have enabled 153 islanders into home ownership through the newly launched First Step scheme, delivered up to £6,000 a year in nursery support for 2 to 3-year-olds to support young families, completed the rollout of nutritious school meals across all states primary schools, and we're implementing the full 76 recommendations of the Violence Against Women and Girls Task Force report. But we must build on this progress to ensure Jersey once again becomes a place where young islanders can realistically aspire to own a home, raise their families here, and choose to stay because they feel confident about the future. I'm optimistic about Jersey's future. We are a resilient island with, with enormous strength, a strong community of talented, hard-working people, a successful local economy, a clean and safe environment in which to live. But in these challenging times, I believe Jersey needs leadership that is steady, experienced, and forward-looking, honest about the challenges, takes responsibility, and gets things done. Too much speeches, I'm afraid. I believe our best years also lie ahead of us if we work hard and have the confidence and determination to build them together. Thank you all for being here this evening. I hope you will consider me for one of your votes, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Alan Brecken.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I ask you to fish this out of your papers? I'm going to refer to some of the facts and figures that's in there. It refers to the top 100 suppliers to the states of Jersey. And the green bit highlighted shows expenditure in 2022 of 218 million. The pink bit shows in 2023 this increased to over 257 million, and the yellow highlights shows this was an increase of over 38 million when compared with 2022. The blue bit shows this equates to over £746,000 a week, or over £106,000 a day. Note this is only year-on-year increase, not the total spend. And that was with ministerial government, and the ministers and the assistant minister at that time are listed on the back page, because my question is, who is responsible, who is accountable, and apparently nobody is. And to me, that's not acceptable. Take this home and have a good look at some of those figures, and they are really, really amazing. And against that background, I know talking to people across the island, they are really very concerned about medical treatment. They're waiting a long time for appointments. Those waiting over a year was 812 in 2024, and it's gone up to 1,307, nearly 500 more in 25. Some people are paying when they shouldn't have to. They're paid in all their lives. They should be first in the queue, not last. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm standing here tonight. Thank you.
Mark Boliat.
Good evening, Mark Boliat. Born and educated in Jersey, my first 4 years at St Martin's Central School. Like many islanders, I've had a long and varied working life, starting from serving pints at the Smugglers Inn at Wainay, to holding chief executive and chair positions in business, charities, government and public sector bodies. That experience does not mean I have all the answers, far from it. But it's taught me how to ask the right questions, how to work collaboratively with others to tackle big issues, to take good decisions and to implement them. The government in Jersey has got too big. We can't afford it, particularly as many household budgets are under pressure. And we want to avoid tax increases. That means we have to grow the economy. To grow the economy, we need to remove the barriers to business. And those barriers have been created by government. The planning system gets in the way of sensible development and in the way of householders seeking to improve their homes. And generally, we try to regulate like the big country. We are not. We need proportionate regulation. And we need to ensure our financial services sector remains competitive. It's got pluses and minuses, but it accounts for 2/3 of our tax revenue. We must never forget that. I have a special interest in helping people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Life chances are largely determined by the age of 5, yet only 64% of children starting primary school are at the expected stage of development. We've done some good work, we must do more. Jersey is a very special place. I want to keep it that way. if I'm elected, I would want to work constructively with all members of the Assembly, charities and businesses and local communities to give you, the people of Jersey, the government that you deserve. Thank you.
Helen Miles.
Thank you. Good evening, St Martin. I'm Helen Miles and I'm standing as an independent candidate. My background is in criminal justice with a 30-year career working in customs and immigration, probation and aftercare and the States of Jersey Police. I was a founding member of Autism Jersey and I've also been an independent member of the Public Accounts Committee. Currently, I'm Deputy for St Brelard. I've served as Minister for Justice and Home Affairs and I'm now Chair of the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel. And this has given me a very balanced experience of serving both in government and on scrutiny. As a Minister, I established the Violence Against Women and Girls Task Force and delivered the Building a Safer Community framework to support early intervention against crime. I introduced a 3-year work permit to help recruit hospitality staff and also negotiated a scheme to increase the numbers of French day trippers to boost tourism. On scrutiny, I led a review which made recommendations to strengthen our vital parish system. I cherish Jersey's identity, our history, our language and our traditions, which we must keep alive. I'm standing for Senator so that I can use my experience to address our many challenges. We need to support lower income families with the cost of living. We must control state spending and actually live within our means. And we need to ensure that young islanders have hope of an affordable future in Jersey. At previous hustings, I've spoken about improving support for lifelong learning, our engagement with charities, protecting our countryside and coastline, and how we can maintain a successful, diversified economy. To deal successfully with these issues, government must first be inclusive, focused, constructive, engaging, and open to healthy challenge. If elected, that will continue to be my approach to improving our wonderful island. Thank you.
Serena Kirsten Guthrie.
I'm going too soon. Good evening, everyone. My name's Serena. I'm a frequent attendant to the park over the road with my children, so it's nice to be here tonight. And for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm best known as the ex-England netball captain and Commonwealth Games gold medalist. And I love my career. It took me all over the world, and I did work with some of the best in the business, including the England Lions and the All Blacks. But when it came to retiring, I knew that there was only one place that I really wanted to come back to, and that was here in Jersey. So I was struck to find how expensive it was for young people when I moved back, and how people my age, friends and family, were frequently leaving. And so it got me thinking, let's get up here and see if I've got a part to play here in public service for the people of Jersey. And that's because there's one thing that I did learn through my career in elite sport, and it's that when a team is failing, it's not a failure of an individual, but it's the failure of that team to work cohesively together. And I think that's what Jersey feels like at the minute. It feels like a team that's not working together. It feels like a team that's losing. We aren't helping enough people through the cost of living. We haven't got a grip on government spending, and our island isn't making enough money. And the next government are in charge and are under huge amounts of pressure to deliver results for the people of Jersey and try and grow the economy. There are some passions that I'd like to fight for if elected. I care deeply about the good that sport can do for children, and at the minute we are not servicing enough of them well enough. We need to start doing that as soon as possible. And I care about preventative health, so we can nip things in the bud, save money, and save lives. And I am interested in bringing a cheaper supermarket to the island so we can actually start helping people through the cost of living. Aldi and Lidl are knocking on the door. We have to work with planning and ease restrictions to let them in. Our best days are ahead of us. I'm positive of that. If we can work together, take responsibility, and deliver results. And I'll bring that mindset. Thank you.
Tom Binney.
Good evening, everyone. Rather than list all of the island's problems in my 2 minutes and tell you that I'm going to reduce the size of government, cut red tape and boost the economy, I thought I'd focus on the work that's been going on in the health service since I was appointed minister just over 2 years ago. It might help to demonstrate the type of approach that I think would be useful in the next government. For good use of time, I'll simply list the work done by my very capable assistant ministers and me since 2024. Firstly, and perhaps most importantly, we've appointed a new senior team of staff, and we've introduced a much-needed culture change. We've also designed and implemented a new partnership board, giving a real voice to every sector of the health provision, which is public, private and charitable. We've increased the base budget by 12 million. We've appointed an all-sector digital board and armed it with an £8 million annual budget to take us from an international rating of 0 to somewhere near the top of the scale over the next 5 years. We've set up a similar group to focus on health prevention measures, and we've obtained £4 million annually to do that, and I'm very grateful to the Council of Ministers and the Assembly for endorsing that. We've returned the digital, finance and HR functions from central government to the direct control of the health service, and we've appointed a specific director for each. We've transferred, designed and submitted plans for an extensive mental health facility and attributed £6 million of dormant charitable funding to complete it. We've tackled the long overdue issue of developing proper medicines regulation and produced an urgent workstream plan. These last two items have been done solely by a very creditable and hardworking deputy of this very parish, and no prizes for guessing who that might be. Finally, we've done extensive work to investigate and apologise for the past ill treatment of health staff. There's a great deal more to say, but I'm out of time. So I'd like to see the same get things done approach right across government, and that's why I'm putting myself forward for another 4 years. Thank you.
And Carl Bush.
Good evening, St Martin's. I'm Carl Bush, standing for Senator. I'm standing because I believe Jersey needs a healthier, stronger and more connected future. Right here in St Martin's is where the action really happens. I run a community interest project called Step 55, and we connect with the community. We empower people in the community with experience, skills and passion to share that for the common benefit of the rest of us, particularly in respect to activity and our well-being. We started here 4 years ago and have grown into something really special. Today, we provide activities like yoga, tai chi, ballet, and line dancing that help people stay active, socially connected, and healthier for longer. From June, Step 55 will deliver 20 classes across the island, supporting around 200 adults every week through activity, well-being, and community connection. Sorry, there's a fly there. Why does this matter? Prevention is better for people than cure. And it is better for the taxpayer too. At the moment, only 54% of adults in Jersey achieve the recommended level of weekly activity, which is 150 minutes. Projects like Step 55 show there is another way. My election promise is simple: healthier people, community well-being, independent for longer. And by investing earlier, Jersey could save up to 4 million a year in long-term health costs. Together we can build a healthier, stronger and more sustainable Jersey. Thank you. I would be honoured to have your support on the 7th of June.
You can keep that. You can keep the microphone because you'll start with the answers to the questions. Thanks very much, Carl. Okay, it is time now to open the floor for questions. So a microphone is going to be passed around. If you ask your question, and then please pass it straight back to the person who's helping us this evening. Thank you very much for your help. We are going to take questions from parishioners as a priority. We're doing that in each of the parishes. So we please ask that you state your name and where you live before you ask your question. We'll not be taking any questions from candidates or current elected members this evening. Please keep your questions brief. We ask that you do ask a question and not make a long statement. Thank you. I may have to ask you to shorten your question if you're not getting straight to the point. And I hope it goes without saying, but we do ask that questions are not offensive in any way. You may be asked to stop talking or potentially leave the room. Your questions must also be able to be answered by each of the 17 candidates, and therefore can't just be aimed at just a couple of them or one of them. So as a reminder, please state your name first of all, where you live. Please hold this microphone really close, because if you hold it down here, we won't be able to hear you speak. So please do that. That would be great, and that's really helpful for the live stream as well. We have got 90 seconds for each of the answers, and we're going to go along the line, starting with Carl to answer, and then we'll go all the way along. So if you'd like to raise your hand, we will get going. There's a gentleman at the front here in this jumper. We'll take this one. Thank you. Your name, first of all, and where you live.
So my name is Adrian Meret, and I live at Hookmont, St Martin. Surprise, surprise. My question is this. Earlier this year, the Jersey Electricity did a proposal to install solar farms on agricultural fields in St Martin. We led a successful campaign to prevent this, which was presented by Montfort Tadier as a proposition to the states, which was basically, in a sense, a presumption against the installation of solar farms on agricultural land. Now, we suspect that the Jersey Electricity will be lobbying the 9 of you who are here. Okay?
So and my question, I ask you what your question? Oh, you're about
my
to ask.
question is very simple. What I'd like to know is, and you can just give a yes or no. When or if you are lobbied, will you support solar on agricultural land, or will you be against the installation of solar on agricultural land? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, I will take one more, because we're going to take 2 questions at a time. So if anyone would like to ask a question, black and red jumper in the front. I will come further back to the room next time. Thank you.
My name is Joel Lamotte. I live down La Rue de Cabaret in St Martin's, and I was wondering if any candidates here would be in support of a new hate crime law, and why or why not they would be.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for the questions. Carl, we will start with you, and I will start the timer. Thank you.
Yes, well, solar farms and planning, I've got quite a bit of experience of this. I come from a local government position in the UK, sat on planning over there, and that area was Devon, mid-Devon in fact. In the time that I was there, we had numerous applications for solar farms. They've been implemented, and the awful thing about them is that it's a blot on the landscape. There are thousands and thousands of acres of just black. The ground underneath you can't farm it. The grass dies off. You can get a few sheep grazing around it, but it is a blot on the landscape. I'm all for sustainability, and I'm all for solar. I think what we should do is possibly consider more roofs. We've got big buildings around on industrial estates, more use of that. In respect to hate crime, absolutely. We need to stamp it out. We're going to be a more inclusive society. We need to change fast. We have a lot of people coming here to work, and it doesn't matter. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Tom.
In relation to solar farms, I think it's a little bit more nuanced than a simple yes or no. I think the St Martin scheme was mad. I just cannot imagine what inspired them to choose somewhere like that. I know the island's land base quite well, and I think that sometimes small and discrete places where nobody gets to see, we could have a certain amount of solar. So I don't think it's as simple as yes or no. In relation to hate crime law, I'm very happy with that. I think we've always got to be a little bit careful about where we start and end with freedom of speech, but in principle, yes.
Adrian, hi. So to answer your first question, I do think that energy resilience is important for this island, and it's something that we do need to think about, I think, in the next government. But we do need to work with the people to make sure that it feels like something that the people are in agreement with, the taxpayers in agreement with. And look, we love our green spaces and our agricultural fields over here, so I do think it's important that is considered. Green spaces are what make Jersey really special for me. But we do need to be sensible about it. So that's what I will say on that. John, hate crime, yeah, look, I've experienced it as an athlete and a female. It's not right. I think representation is absolutely key. I think you need a government willing to say that they don't accept it, because I think we will be essentially role modelling, and we're the shop window to making sure that people understand that it's something that is not acceptable. So I apologise if you've gone anything like that in your life, but the government should 100% be supportive of hate crime and stamping it out across this island, because, like I say, I've experienced it and it's not on.
Adrian, thank you for the question. We've got solar panels at home. I'm very pro-solar. We've managed to get rid of our oil. I haven't been lobbied by the JEP. I haven't been lobbied by the JEC, unless I've missed an email somewhere. But no, in principle, I'm totally against using greenfields for solar. I think I was at the briefing that you did about the St Mary's scheme. I think we've got plenty other buildings that could be explored first. We've got the prison, we've got schools, we've got car parks, and we should be prioritising and potentially subsidising solar panels on roofs before we start using our green spaces. Agricultural land should be used for growing crops, not glass. Joel, thank you very much for the question. When I was Minister for Justice and Home Affairs in 2022, the hate crime law was on my priority list. When the government changed in 2024, it was no longer on the priority list. I think everybody has a right to be treated with dignity and respect, and I do think the circumstances that we arrive at now means that actually we do need to implement a hate crime law, and that is actually possible without creating a chilling effect on free speech.
I could give a very quick answer and just say I agree with Helen Miles. The JEC hasn't been lobbying us at all, unless they simply are avoiding me, which perhaps they are. Of course, we shouldn't use good agricultural land for solar farms, but there's an awful lot of poor land. Indeed, within a mile of where I live, there are 3 huge derelict greenhouse sites. Now, it could be that they could be prime agricultural land. So there's land that can be used for solar farms, but not prime agricultural land. On hate crime, I'd like to go back is why do people have hatred for others? That's the crime. It's people thinking in that sort of way. As for a law, if the law can be effective in stopping it without having a chilling effect on free speech, fine. But on the whole, I'm just wary of thinking we can solve a problem by passing a law. If we did that, we would have no problems at all in Jersey, because we have passed so many laws on so many things, none of which are simply not, they're just not enforced. So absolutely, we need to stop hatred, work out the best way to do that, and if that means having a law, I'm absolutely for it.
Yes, I would support a hate crime law. And obviously the detail would need to be effective for Jersey. Regarding solar farms on agricultural fields, I don't think it's appropriate at all. With another hat on, I'm a member of the board of Maison St Bernard, and last year I was involved in getting 82 solar panels on the roof, and it is very, very effective. The other night at St Clement, the chief executive of the JEC was actually there, and he came up after when we were talking about that, and he did tell me that they are looking at roofs of various buildings rather than agricultural fields. That's what he did tell me. So he wasn't lobbying me because I'd mentioned Maison St Bernard and what happened there, and it is saving the home a lot of money as well. And I think that the JEC are looking at roof installation. I really do. So let's hope that works and not fails. And you people have done a good job in turning them round. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually wrote to a parishioner of St Mary's about this yesterday evening. I quote some excerpts from my email, if I may. I voted in favour of the proposition by Deputy Tadier, which was adopted by the State Assembly. The effect of that decision is to introduce a clear presumption against development of solar farms on agricultural land. The decision reflects the current position of the State's Assembly and carries significant weight. It should guide future planning decisions until the policy is reconsidered through the next island plan. I do not support it, as you can tell. I agree with the other candidates. I do agree with we should pursue renewable energy, but not solar farms on prime agricultural land. Yes to a hate crime. We were working on it. I think Mary might have something more to say as Home Affairs Minister, but we diverted resources into the Violence Against Women and Girls Task Force work, but it is on the cards and it's something I would support. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't have to support it, but we need to. Thank you very much.
The second question first, absolutely. People should have the right to live safely and be respected for who they are and what they do. In regards to the solar farm, my thinking has changed from starting off. I absolutely support the presumption against, so that's where I started. And I was investigating whether it was our choice, whether it was solar farm or prime agricultural land, not and. And there are places all over the world that run horticultural industries under solar farms, and I kind of investigated that quite extensively. But then I actually got into a different kind of discussion about the transparency of pricing of electricity from JEC, and actually creating the need for solar farms by arguing again for a particular pricing structure. And I believe JEC's prime job should be to buy electricity as cheaply as possible and sell it to people as cheaply as possible and sustain a business that way. And what's happening is that lack of transparency is actually generating a case for solar farms that doesn't actually exist. So that's my position. So I've actually changed my position over the course of this by talking to parishioners like yourself and coming to understand the real issues that underpin the apparent case for solar farms.
Well, I tend to agree with Tom, actually. It's a very nuanced subject. I haven't quite been lobbied by JEC, but I have been the shareholder representative for government for JEC for the last 2 years, so I've possibly been brainwashed by them rather than just lobbied. It does make absolute sense. Solar farms make absolute sense. There are so many areas. In the last few weeks, we've talked about having food security. We don't care about having energy security. We are reliant on the French. And if they pull the plug, basically, we've got no lights. So there is an element of having alternative sources. They're not trying to put them on good agricultural land. Where I live, I'm surrounded by fields. Well, I'm not going to argue with you. But the St Clement one, we've all seen the paper, has produced 30% more energy. I'm not necessarily supporting it. The community have to be brought alongside. I'm surrounded by fields, not one of them is farmed with crops. Hate crime, absolutely shocking that it happens, but I'm not sure that a law is the answer. It's a pity Martin's not here, because he was the face of an anti-hate crime campaign and had his face on the back of the police van, as he's told us quite a lot. So yes, it's a dreadful thing. I think there should be ways of dealing with it now. We already have offences. There's a concept of aggravated offence. We should be able to deal with that now without creating more and more law. It will be 2 or 3 years away. We just need to deal with it better.
I certainly haven't been lobbied by the JEC. I suspect they might have been lobbying against me. And my position, as you know, in St Mary's, we had the same issue and we fought against it and we worked with parishioners there. I would just say, though, I think JEC are doing a great job. They are providing Jersey carbon-free electricity at relatively low cost compared to elsewhere. We've got 3 interconnectors to France, and I think it works incredibly well. So I would argue that we should be protecting green spaces. We've tried to protect green spaces from development, and therefore we should be protecting them from this sort of development as well. But anyway, there we are on that one. Hate crime law, of course, I'm not against introducing a law. We've seen it happen elsewhere. What concerns me is that often in government we think, oh, I'll tell you what, we'll introduce a law and that will solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem, because with a law we also need to understand each other, work together more as a community. What makes Jersey great is that we're a community and we're close-knit, and therefore we must build on that, talk to each other, understand each other, so we drive out the hatred at its base, as well as having a piece of legislation. But the legislation won't do the hard yards about understanding each other, recognising where we are the same and not so different. I am really against divisiveness in all its forms that we see in other communities.
Thank you, Adrian. Absolutely. I'm totally opposed to covering green fields with solar panels, and when we've got so much roof space and other things we could look at putting on. Also, I'm aware that JEC, with the connectivity they've got, we're the second cheapest for electricity in the whole of Europe, and they've got a pricing tariff which is fixed, so our electricity bills are not going to go up. So we don't need to charge around putting solar panels everywhere. We can build it in gradually and carefully and do it properly. As for hate crime, if you've read my manifesto, you'll know that I was the first male in Jersey to qualify as a nursery nurse that's working with young children. So I got some really unpleasant comments when I was in my when I was 16 to 18 and on beyond. So I know what it feels like. But legislation might help, but I'm not convinced. I really think that if we were to have better role models in early years, I think we would actually get away from this, and also from the misogyny and toxic masculinity we have now. But to finish, just to let you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
You'll be pleased to know, in my 2 terms as a member of the Planning Committee, I refused both St Mary's and St Clement's solar panels. For me, it is about saving good quality land, but unfortunately there is a problem with that, because I don't actually believe that we have anybody on the island that can actually tell us whether the land is good quality or not. I think that we should, apparently not, I believe that we should look at the sites as in potentially the greenhouse sites. I've also got concerns that in 40 years' time, when the solar panels go, that we'll be left with whatever is planted in the ground, as in the concrete, like we have with the greenhouses. In relation to hate crime, I fully agree with the principle of a hate crime. The policy officer is already working on this. It was unfortunate that there was some delays in the work that officer was doing in relation to other legislation. And as soon as this, as soon as the election period has finished, there will be a consultation that will be going out from the states of Jersey.
Well, I don't like hate. So yes, I would back legislation properly drafted for a hate law, but I do need to remind everyone in the room, it doesn't matter what law you pass, there's always going to be 1 or 2 people who break the law. Just look at speeding. We all know what the speed limits are around the island. It doesn't stop people going way over the top. Now, as for solar, well, yes, put solar panels on roofs that catch the sun, not on the most expensive agricultural fields in Europe, when we could probably do with the produce in due course. Going back to the electric problem, can we please abandon concepts of this offshore wind farm costing billions? JEC don't want to fund it. Government of Jersey is just going to take the seafloor leasing payments, And private money's going to fix it, apparently. Yeah. Well, if you know anything about private money investment, they expect a percentage payback. And I wonder who's going to pay that. Yes, everybody who uses electricity from the offshore wind farm. Work that out.
Adrian, thank you for the question. We've corresponded on email. I've met a number of your neighbours and I've been more educated for those conversations. I've spoken about food and local food security, and I'm with Elaine on this. You know, I worry about security of this island, and I think we need to create more energy if we can, and solar can help with that. I'm the minister that would put permitted development, cover your roofs in solar if you want to. If you've got a house, I was the person that put that forward. And when it comes to solar in fields, the island plan has some policies. The island plan is passed by the States Assembly. There's a number of members on the table here tonight who voted in favour of the last island plan. And the last island plan defends agriculture. It's got a presumption against development in the green zone. And it says that only in exceptional circumstances would we consider solar in fields. As has also been said, the states had a debate on this recently, and Deputy Tadier put forward the proposal. And just like we did with the car parking, there's a clear indication from the current States Assembly of a direction of travel, and I will take that away if I can and change things. But I think we have to accept between now and the next island plan, we're stuck with the policy we've got. But the policies do defend agricultural land wholeheartedly, and only in exceptional circumstances. It's not a given that we will have solar all over our fields. Very briefly, if I could take about hate crime. There's too much hate in this world, and we've got to do what we can to stop it. I've got more to say afterwards.
Adrian, thank you. I haven't been lobbied, but if I am, I think the answer can be really easy, which is to say that the States Assembly has made a democratic decision and that must be respected, end of story. The JC is 2/3 publicly owned, so therefore they should be serving the public interest. We work together. There are alternatives. We've got loads of space on the roofs of government buildings. That ought to be something to divert our attention to instead, and I think that that would leave everybody happy, so that's got to be a win-win. Joel, in terms of hate crime law, yes, I support it. It's in my manifesto. That can be absolutely assured. But I do agree that passing a law won't cure people who hate. I witnessed a hate crime recently. I was at the mosque when there was an attack outside of it a few weeks ago. You might remember being reported in the news. And if you are somebody who sees people different to you and chooses to be violent towards them, then you have something rotten in your brain, and we can't legislate to fix that. But what we can do as a society, and in particular as politicians, is to act as role models against bigotry and hatred. And we should not do what too many politicians in the UK and in America do, which is that they pander to bigotry for political expediency. That must never happen here, and all of our politicians must demonstrate opposition to that kind of politics. It has no place in Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, by the time you come to Taylor and Charlie, there's not a lot left to say, but I will do my best. Joel, to start with, about hate crime, there is no place whatsoever in our society for hate or hate crimes, and we're a very tolerant society in Jersey. So whatever mechanism, whether that's a law or any other mechanism that's going to squash that out of our society, should be fully and completely supported, and I certainly support it. Adrian, with regard to solar farms and solar panels on agricultural land, I'm a board member of Genuine Jersey, and there is absolutely nothing Genuine Jersey about putting rather ugly solar panels on agricultural land. So I would have to say absolutely not. There is a place, though, in certain areas, perhaps brownfield sites, perhaps greenhouse sites, possibly. Roofs have been mentioned where it would be useful to consider solar panels. And I think the technology is developing, which will make them look a little less unattractive on the eye. And we have to remember it's important to insulate the island against energy shocks. And I think alternative uses like solar is something we should consider in the right place, but absolutely not on agricultural land. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Thank you to all the candidates. If I could ask that the microphone is passed back up to Elaine, that would be great. Thank you so much. Right, I'll take 2 more questions. I'm aware that I went to the front last time, so I'll go to the back. There's a gentleman in the green shirt. If we can go to him first of all. If you could just state your name and where you live first of all. Thank you.
Sam Fall, St Martin. Jersey's currently got a number of young shooting athletes on Olympic pathways. Do you think that this sport should still be supported, or does the sport pose too high a risk to public safety?
Thank you very much. And there's a lady in the white and pink top on this side. We'll move over here. In the interest of fairness, thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Jayon, Rue de la Mare de Rennes, St Martin. In light of recent reports and concerns raised by teachers about Jersey's SEND and inclusion system, including claims that the current model is placing unsustainable pressure on schools and failing some children with additional needs, do you believe Jersey's inclusion model is currently fit for purpose? If not, what changes would you make to better support both pupils and school staff? Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. Elaine, we're going to start with you. Thank you.
2 easy ones then. Yes, I think if people are competing in a sport they love and they're good at, we should support them to continue to do that. Shooting is controversial in some areas, but I think provided the guns and the ammunition are stored in a safe way, there's all relevant safeguarding procedures put in place, then yes, I think we should still support it in whatever way we do at the moment. I know shooting's a very big activity in Jersey. I spoke to a couple of people shooting recently who were concerned about rules for their guns and gun clubs. But yes, it's a big thing in Jersey, and I think we should continue to support it and not take actions out of ignorance really about the processes. And speaking about ignorance, I really know nothing about the SEND provision or schools. I don't have children, I don't know any in them, so I just cannot answer that question, and I'm not going to guess at it. I mean, clearly there's been reports, and we need to do some more work on that, and that'll be for the Education Minister, the next Education Minister, Minister for Children, going forward to look at what the problems are and how we fix it, but I just don't have an answer for you, I'm sorry. Thank you.
First question, I do think that it should be allowed to continue. Jersey has got a very proud history of shooting, and it punches above its weight, if I can mix my sports there, and providing that guns and ammunition are held safely, and I believe that they are. I don't think we need to make any changes to those firearm laws. That might make me an outlier this evening, but I think it should be supported. SEND is an incredibly difficult issue, and if I answer the question in the way that I want to, which is that it's not fit for purpose, I don't mean any criticism of teachers or parents who've got children with special educational needs. I think that we must have a much wider island conversation about how we include and how we educate the rest of the community about what does it mean when a child has ADHD or autism or any other SEND issue. Because unless you've experienced it, it's very difficult to explain and understand. So we need to support our teachers, we need to have a better conversation, and probably we're ultimately going to need to spend more money on it, but we've got to have a island-wide educational conversation about what it means and how we can support those individuals. Thank you.
So guns, I've had a go at shooting myself, and it's actually quite well regulated. It's hard to get into unless you do it properly. I had a young friend who was very good at shooting, and he made some comment, someone about not feeling a bit low, and he got banned from shooting for a while. He's back into it now because they were worried about his mental health, so I think it's very well regulated. SEND, blimey. I've worked with special needs children, I've worked with children with autism. and it's an incredibly nuanced area. There's lots of things that we need to consider. Ultimately, we're going to have to put more support in schools. I've just been with two people that are down at Brigadon. They've come with a school and they're supporting children, and their pay levels are horribly low, and they're both giving up their evenings. They're not getting paid extra for supporting these children on an overnight school trip, which is wrong. So we need to really look at the whole provision. Resources, we're going to have to put more resources into schools. We're going to have to build better buildings. We're going to have to build better provision. Currently, there's some children in the porta cabins, which is just horrendous. And we just need to crack on and sort it out. And I think Ian's right. We need to have a big conversation about it. Thank you.
In relation to young shooters and athletes, I think there's been concerns raised by some of the population in relation to the number of firearms and ammunition kept on Ireland. However, there was some minor changes made so that there wasn't the wish list, and there was a reduction in relation to how much ammunition people can keep at home. However, I think it is important to identify that the people who compete or athletes and compete regularly and shoot regularly, that they should be allowed to continue with their sports in a way that is appropriate. And so I am supportive of athletes being able to have the necessary amount of ammunition that they need. But as I said, we need to control those maybe that actually don't necessarily need the ammunition, because they may just be keeping firearms as, for example, like you would an antique, so they could be actually keeping them for other purposes. So I think they're very different things, but I'm very supportive of the athletes and the concerns that they have. In relation to the teachers and SEND, I think it's really important as a community that we start to learn a little bit more about the different diversities amongst our population, and in order that we can actually start to sort of deal with young people in particular from a very early age. So there's clearly somebody to my left here that's got far more knowledge than me, but I really do think that we need to start to look at and see what is the best way to deliver education.
I'm not an expert on education, but I would simply say this. I think that every young child needs a fair crack from the very start and shouldn't be left out. And I dare say that technology is developing now so that we can accommodate people better than we're doing before. On shooting, I slightly misheard the question. I thought we were talking about the Olympics. I support shooting. In fact, I got a marksman's badge at one point, and I was the best shot in my school, but too young to go to Bisley. And that kind of put me off for a while. But whilst on the subject of sport, I do think we want to concentrate on people who are really quite good, like Serena, for example, England netball captain. Can we kind of give up on the £1.5 million we spend being champion of small islands? You know, hey, we beat the guy from the Faroes or Guernsey or wherever it is. And with respect to the Chief Minister, the Super Triathlon was a grotesque waste of loot. I checked the viewing figures, and dismal, I'm afraid.
Thanks for the question, Sam. Obviously, we are a great shooting island. We need to do all we can to support young people into that sport. I think this has got a great future, but the one thing we do have to address is the amount of ammunition that's held at people's private homes. I don't see any reason why people need thousands of rounds, but it does happen. We need to look carefully at firearms, and guns that aren't going to be used should be deactivated properly, so they can't be just pulled off a shelf and loaded and fired. But I do support the sport. Tracy, your question. It's a very sad situation, but teachers at the moment are pretty much overwhelmed with trying to cope with SEND in schools at the moment. We have too many children in mainstream school who should really be, in my view, at Montalabé. Each of them needs more help. It's very frustrating. and more schools might need more separate facilities alongside the school to cope with and help these children. We also maybe even need a halfway house school now between Montalebe and mainstream schools. As has been said, ADHD, autism is really, we need to help these children. We need more TAs in schools to do that. One thing I am also advocating as part of my manifesto is that we need to take action to protect our children from social media, and certainly in the next legislation, if I'm here, I will do something about that.
Thank you. Shooting was something that never really appealed to me when I was growing up. I think it was probably something my dad instilled in me with my values. But I did end up going to Grab A last year with some friends. One of them, it was for their stag do. We were definitely sober at this point, though, don't worry. And in my first 10 shots, 7 of them were bullseyes. I did not expect to learn that about myself, so I might have a vested interest in the question about elite athletes there. But generally speaking, I would say live and let live on this. Jersey doesn't have the kind of American culture and rules when it comes to guns, and thank goodness for that. And if people in Jersey are successful at this, then that is something that we ought to support and celebrate. Send provision in schools. We have had many of us stand up on this platform already today to talk about reducing government spending, ending waste in spending. And one of the reasons that's so important is so we have resources that we can divert to the front lines where they are clearly so desperately needed. And this must be one of those areas, because spending money to support those children is not just morally the right thing to do, it's also an investment in Jersey's future as well, to make sure that they get the best experience at school. 2 other things that we can do with that. Steve just mentioned halfway house school type option. That's something the outgoing education minister has spoken about. That's really important. Getting a new La Passerelle school is extremely important. The current facilities are absolutely disgraceful, and they deserve much better than that. And we have to work with CAMS to reduce their diagnosis timelines as well.
Thank you, Sam. With regard to shooting, I think we should support our athletes in whatever field. I would absolutely support shooting. The key issue is obviously safety. I think in reality, most of the clubs are very well organised and well structured and very safe. The risk, of course, is weapons at home and ammunition at home and a lack of perhaps oversight and control. But I have to say the parishes are pretty good in that area, and the constables have a very clear oversight as to the weapons that are held. So I think if it's done properly with the right framework, then that is reasonable. But if it's not, then that's another matter altogether. Tracy, with regard to SEN, special needs, it's not a subject that I'm an expert on. I know that there are a lot of children that are suffering from special needs requirements. Some of the cases are quite complex. There is no question that it's therefore going to be very difficult for the schools and for the pupils themselves and the staff. And I think it's important that the partnership between all those parties, so that the provision can evolve over time. We need to continue to improve it. I know that tens of millions of pounds are spent each year. Whether that's enough, that's another matter altogether. As Sam was saying, making sure we have the funds to put into the key and important areas like this is crucially important, which is why we have to get rid of waste elsewhere in the public sector. We see too many examples of money being wasted on projects that really are highly questionable. Thank you.
The answer is yes, we should be supporting our sports people in shooting. It's a great sport, subject to all of the safety measures that surround it in terms of the guns and the ammunition. And just to reassure islanders, and I hope we never need this, there is a well-rehearsed and well-understood emergency response for mass shooting on the island, both on here and in Guernsey. And that won't happen. Well, go and visit the memorial in Coronation Park to Dunblane. So we must guard against the worst possible outcome. In terms of SEND, I think the key issue is the model here, that if you have a large demand for a service and a limited supply, you have to increase the number of what's called gateways into care so that people aren't queued up together. And the critical thing here is the engagement of GPs. And GPs at the moment are reluctant to engage fully because they're not paid to do that unless things have changed recently, and they're not trained to do that. But we have over 100 GPs on the island, and actually increasing the number of gateways for treatment would actually ameliorate the demand on education to provide support that should possibly be better delivered by the health service, not the education service. But it's a shared responsibility amongst all the public services. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I support all of our athletes, even our triathletes. Guy, we saw local athletes from competing in triathlon go on to represent us in the Commonwealth Games. My grandfather, Channel Island shooting champion, 1947-48, Bill Farnham, it's on the board at Crabbe. My dad was good, my uncle was good. I tried, that was quite good, but I didn't like it very much. I'm sorry about that, but yes, I support the sport. Tracy, every child is important. Every child is supported to succeed, and I will support further improvement in the provision of special educational needs. You may be aware there's been some meetings going on in the last week between education, CAMS, and the special educational need coordinators in school. You asked for some examples. We need to better understand the impact of system requirements for CAMS and referrals to the SENCOs. Explore how school staff can better work with CAMS colleagues, respecting the demands on the services and SENCOs at this present time. So there's definitely some under-resourcing there. Ensure resources that are available are used most effectively to support children and young people. Following meetings are going on, but we are taking this seriously, and I support a great improvement if we can get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Shooting is an active sport with leagues, and also Jersey's been very successful at the Ireland Games and also the Commonwealth Games. And providing the safety issues are addressed through the parishes, then obviously there's support and help for anybody who might rise to international standard. Regarding special educational needs, I have a family member who works there, and I know it's very challenging work, and the demand she is working with is to make the kids get the best life chances and to be inclusive. But she believes, because she told me, that they do need more support to give those young people the life chances. And the question is, do we put the fence at the top of the cliff, or do we put the ambulance at the bottom? And that's why I believe we need to put in the support to help young people to get the best life chances and turn out to be good individuals. Thank you.
I support what's been said on sport. I think it's very important for the island's identity, and I support giving every possible support we can to good athletes in whatever sport. Tracy, thank you. This is an area in which I feel very strongly. 4 years ago, we had the report on inclusive education, and I think it's an excellent report. And it said Jersey did not have an inclusive education system. Indeed, we have about the most uninclusive system you could imagine. It made 50 recommendations. Not many have been implemented, if at all. Last year, we had the Island Send Review, and again, an excellent report, which I commend to everybody, which said that leadership and organisation were not fully effective. I'm looking at it as we speak. And it made the point we've got a system that is complaints-driven, as opposed to a system of trying to identify problems at the beginning and doing something about it. So there is much more we can do. You asked me what we should do. I'm not an expert, but when you've got 2 reports with very clear recommendations from experts about what to do, there's a pretty simple solution here. Let's implement the recommendations.
Thank you for the question. In in response to the first part of the question about the young shooting athletes, yes, of course we should support them. For people that have read my manifesto, you note that it says update our firearms law. That's something that I have been saying for quite some time. But what I would say is that is about managing risk. And anybody who is a bona fide shooter, be it for recreation or for sport, should have nothing to fear from an updated firearms law. To move to the second question around special educational needs, this is an area very close to my heart. I am an autism parent. I was one of the founder members of Autism Jersey. I had these battles 30 years ago so that parents of children now don't have to have them, and yet they still are. As Mark has said, we've had 2 reports in the last 5 years, damning reports. We've also had the Union of Educational Psychologists blacklisting Jersey for their members. And what we have now is a problem with capacity, capability and resilience, and that is absolutely no criticism of the teachers in feeder schools who are doing their best to manage children who should be in specialist provision. Montalabe is full. The extension to Montalabe was rejected. It was postponed a couple of years ago. So what happens is that local schools are managing these children without the necessary resources, and that is really not fair to anybody, and it needs to be funded properly.
So Sam, there'll be no surprises here to hear, obviously, I absolutely do support the sport of shooting. I had a great conversation with some members from the shooting community at the Hustings up in Oakfield. I quite like to bring the conversation back around to support, to enable those athletes to actually realise their dream. There's only a short window in performance sport when you can get your training hours in, and if they're here training in Jersey, again, we do have a sports facilities crisis. I'd like to see a long-term sports facility strategy in the next 4 years, and I'd love to be a part of that. Tracy, I agree with Ian. It's simply not fit for purpose. It's not something I think that we should be accepting. I'm a big believer in investing in beginnings and endings, and I'll bring it back round to something I am really passionate about around physical literacy. It doesn't solve everything in terms of helping send children, but everybody knows that a fitter child is a healthier child because they've got a healthier brain and are able to cope with more. And I've worked in a charity in Bath where we used physical literacy to help change children's lives for the better, and it works, but it's not the only answer. It needs to be a strategic policy and something that actually works together, that enables them to learn and actually be a part of mainstream society. They shouldn't be singled out. We should work harder to make them a part of normal society.
The first question, shooting. I've never been involved, but I'm perfectly happy to support properly organised and properly managed shooting. The second question about SEND was very specific. Is the inclusion model fit for purpose? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to do the same as Elaine. I don't have intimate knowledge. I'm not in a position to comment meaningfully, so I'm afraid I can't answer that properly. Thanks.
Firstly, shooting. I've got limited experience of shooting, and I'm a terrible shot. I'm as nervous as hell when guns are around, but that doesn't stop me from supporting shooting here on the island. I think what we do need to be particularly aware of and have particular focus on is obviously the registration, the legislation, and I think that if you have a system where you have licensing and it's policed well, then obviously the risk of anything going wrong depreciates. If there was a situation where for example, we had a ban on licenses and we didn't support it, what would then happen? Would there be more illegal firearms on the island? So I think from a risk perspective, keeping in contact and keeping an eye and an open view on it does promote it, and I think that that's helpful. SEND, I don't really have much experience about SEND and education. However, inclusivity is very, very important. And secondly to that, Jersey being Jersey, why don't we look at a creative solution that isn't out there already?
Great, I think that's everyone. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll take 2 more questions. There's a gentleman over this side, and I'll go to the lady in the blue jumper afterwards. Thank you. If you could just tell us your name and where you live.
I'm John Ponomarenko and I live in St Martin. My question has arisen from something Serena said in her preamble, and she said that Aldi and Lidl were very keen to come to the island. I was surprised by this because I always thought they didn't want to come because they thought the footfall was too small. So my question to all the candidates is, if Lidl or Aldi did want to come to the island, would you support them coming over? And also, if you have any evidence either way as to whether they would like to come or not, please could you share it?
Thank you very much. And the lady here in the blue jumper. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Judith and I live down in Gorey. My question is about population. Is the island full or is there room for more?
Thank you very much. Would you mind just passing that microphone up, Carl, please? Carl? Would you mind just passing the mic up to this end? Thank you very much. We'll start with Bernard.
Aldi Lidl, my understanding is they have actually expressed an interest to come here, but the mechanics of how they would do that with their business model are still open to discussion. They have I won't go into what the business model is, but it's one that fits certain environments but not others. And so would they be able to get by on Jersey? I don't know, but certainly there's nothing in terms of the principle of getting a discount supermarket on the island I'm against. I just have doubts whether it would work. In terms of is the island full, I think that, or is there room for more? There's always room for more people with the right skills that will sustain our future. And what we're seeing, of course, now is a growing older population, a lack of perhaps enough younger people with skills that can generate the economic growth. So I think the answer is it depends. And I think that from my view, seeing population simply as an issue of numbers, we need to move beyond that. There was a time when, of course, we were trying to keep people out of Jersey with a birth rate of about over 1,000 or so births every year. Last year it was 750. So we have to recognise the reality of the island as it's developing. So the answer is, Judith, it depends if we fall or not.
Yes, thank you, John. I can assure you and others here this evening that Audi and Lidl are not knocking on the door to come here. And if they were, we would welcome them with open arms. Their business model to work on very high turnovers, low margins in towns and cities, much larger, with catchment areas much larger than the channel lines. But if they did want to come here, we would do everything we can to accommodate them, because we need to promote more competition in markets such as food and, of course, fuel. Population is challenging now, but in a different way than we imagined perhaps 5 years ago, when it was growing exponentially. Now we're seeing a worrying fall in the birth rate, which is starting to have an impact in schools, and will have a greater impact on our working age population moving forward. But the good news is we're all going to live a lot longer, and so population is going to take some interesting twists and turns. What we do have to do is make sure we have the skills available to keep our economy running and bringing in the taxes we need, and have access to more affordable family homes to keep young islanders here so they can have families, not put them in flats in town. Thank you.
Regarding a low-cost supermarket, in a former life I was chairman of the Jersey Consumer Council for 16 years, and one of them, I won't say which one, came to see me years ago, and they were actually thinking of buying Benet's supermarkets, but it didn't work. And when they worked out the numbers, it didn't work either. We've got the stretch of water, and a population of 100,000 is not really big enough for them, because you've got a market of about £5 million a week. That's what it is. If you look at the Co-op, Marks and Spencer's Alliance, that's what the market is, and it's not big enough for them. Having said that, I hope they do come, but it didn't work before, and now people are buying a lot of stuff on the internet, which they weren't doing then. On the population, is it full or room for more? Well, actually, we've got more people coming every day, working in health, education, hospitality, and these people tend to come and go, and we do really need them. I'll just give you an example. I got an early morning bus a few weeks ago at the airport, and I realised when I got on it was pretty full. This was 6:30 in the morning, and there were people going to work in the 3 care homes that are on that bus route, and we really need them to look after us, and there were people who just come to the island. Thank you.
Thank you. My 2 favourite subjects. I actually put a paper about low-cost supermarkets on LinkedIn a few days ago. I agree entirely with Lyndon. This notion they're knocking on the door, in a way, there's nothing stopping them. They can come here. What is stopping them? It's not quite their business model. It's that we are not in the United Kingdom. Now, basically, Jersey is big enough for Lidl or Aldi. Their population criteria was 20,000. We meet that. No problem with size. They would turn over £12 million a year on average and want £250,000 profit. The question for them is, Jersey, we can't put them on the payroll. Different tax system, different social security system, different laws on consumer policy, a planning system that's unpredictable. There goes our 250,000 profit. That's the issue for them. If it's profitable, they would absolutely be here. Now, population really is my subject. I've written the history of the Jersey population. It's very boring. The first claim that Jersey was overpopulated, and I was trying to find it, I believe was in 1474. Okay? So it's been like that forever. It's whatever size you want it to be. A few years ago, the suggestion that 100,000 would be regarded as a national calamity. Now, it might be if it goes down below 100,000, that would really give us a problem at present. So, population growth has slowed, and I think we can be comfortable with it. So, not a big concern at present. And interestingly, there's now more concern about young people leaving the island, and we need to get people in. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there's really too much I can say about low-cost supermarkets after that. Of course, it's an attractive proposition, but I think the devil will be in the detail, and I would also be worried about the impact on our local stores, such as the Co-op and the local workforce. The question about is the population, is the island full? Is the population too high or too low? I don't think there's many people in Jersey that would say our population is too low, but equally we do need to face the reality of maintaining a sufficient population to maintain our economy. Our birth rate is dropping significantly. We've always had a very constant 1,000 births, and it's dropping 700. It may well be lower than that this year. And obviously with an ageing population at the other end, we've got inevitable economic challenges as well. We need people to work in our economy. I would want to make sure that we can keep as many local people working in our economy, so that makes of the importance of online on-island training and other development opportunities are important to create jobs and wealth for the future. But we also do need to deal with this underlying problem of the low birth rate, and that we know is linked to the cost of living and in particular the cost of housing. So continue to develop our own people to maintain our economy. That would be what I would say.
Hi, John. Great question. So, yes, okay. There have been multiple conversations by Aldi and Lidl saying that they want to come to Jersey. That's been happening for a long time, and that isn't a secret. That has been happening. They would be a budget supermarket. That is their USP. We have got people over here at the minute using credit cards to get through the daily, weekly shop, getting in more debt because we don't have enough competition or enough choice on this island. That is why it's an excellent business case to bring a budget supermarket over here. it's not going to be easy. Planning is an issue. At Question Time today on BBC, there was a surveyor explicitly saying that she is in talks with Aldi and Lidl, but guess what? Planning's a problem. Planning is a huge problem, not just for housing over here, but for budget supermarkets. And we have to seriously look at that thick wad of paper and try and redesign it to meet the needs of this island, because the island needs a budget supermarket. Thank you.
To be honest, I don't think I'm going to waste your time repeating things. I think Mark answered both questions superbly well. I just make the point that we've got a real demographic problem coming up. The number of people going into pensionable age in the next 10 years is incredible, and that's going to leave a huge hole in our working population. And at some point in time, we're going to have to address that. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Aldi and Lidl, we need competition. Competition is healthy, and anyone who has shopped at Aldi or Lidl would know that the variety that you get is absolutely tremendous. They both got different models, so they both supply different items. So yeah, we would benefit. It would be cost effective from a cost of living point of view. So yes, I'm all for that. All for that. Population. I went through an exercise when the campaign started, and I looked at population figure over the last, I think it was 5 years, and I worked out my maths that the population was up by 0.03%. So it is absolutely stagnant. And with an aging population, isn't that going to be a problem for the future? We need people who are producing taxes over here to sustain the aging population. And I'd like to finish by saying that we need people to... I'm an import. I got my business license on my own merit when I came to the island. So I can tell you that the process of going through a business license for someone coming to the island is very, very stringent.
Right. The subject of low-cost supermarkets, of course, we would all love to have low-cost supermarkets. How realistic is it? Well, the cost of doing business here is much higher. So if you think for one moment, if we had an Aldi, we would get the same price food here from Aldi in Jersey as you would in the UK, you wouldn't. The cost of premises, the cost of transport, and by the way, the state's decision on minimum wage and living wage direction has, according to the supermarkets, added around about 2% to the cost of food. So it's not as straightforward as perhaps is made by many people. I'm all in favour of it. By the way, planning would be another issue, finding a suitable site. But I think that could be overcome. But I think we should be open to the opportunity. If a low-cost supermarket presents itself, we should certainly have conversations with them. With regard to the island, Judith, and whether we're full, it certainly felt like it when I drove here this evening. But I think in reality we've got to be realistic. We have an aging population. What we need to do immigration-wise is make sure we have the right people, low footprint, high value. By that I mean we need people who are going to contribute to the local economy and feed the local economy. It's absolutely crucial we have the right workers. So that would be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, John. The way you termed the question was, would we support it? And I think the question in response to that is, support it by doing what? Because there isn't a rule saying that they're not allowed to come here. The reason they're not here is essentially free market forces, and government can't overcome that without getting into really big trouble. And there will be, you know, if another supermarket say we're not all going to be buying more food, we're going to be buying the same amount of food but split over more providers, does that push out another one, and then the remaining ones jack up their prices again because free market forces will allow them to do it? I'm just not convinced that there is actually government stopping that from happening, and I'm certainly not convinced about issues with the planning system, because we have just approved a humongous hotel in the green zone because it was deemed that the economic benefit overrode the presumption against building in the green zone. So if there's an overwhelming economic case for another supermarket in Jersey, planning can accommodate that. So I'm just not convinced by those arguments, and I worry that they might be a Trojan horse for something else. But Judith, on population, is there room for more? Well, of course there is. We could build a load of skyscrapers and we could concrete over the remaining greenfields in Jersey, but I think most people would not want to see that happen. We want to preserve what's special about Jersey. So if we want to avoid that, we have to do the other things. That means improving the skills among our population. That means enticing young people back to the island once they've been away to study, and we make the best use of what we've got. It's tricky. It's always going to be tricky. I'm sure Mark's book tells us all about how tricky it was in the past, but we want to be Jersey, not another place.
Thank you, John. As a minister that's passed some new guidance to increase the importance of economic applications to the planning system, I thank Sam for his words about that. We are trying to do more. If an application has good economic value, let's give it the importance it deserves. I have no evidence of Aldi or Lidl coming here, but the only thing I would add to the conversation is if you're in the UK, a large town with a population similar to Jersey would have another population of about 500,000 people within a catchment of 20 minutes, half an hour from that supermarket. That's one of the big differences with Jersey. We can't expand the catchment more than the 100,000 people who are stuck on the rock. Judith, your question about population, there's no good answer, but the least worst option is to continue to increase the population, unfortunately, because of the reasons other people have said. We need more people working. We've got a massive number of people like myself that are going to fall into the over 65 retirement bracket very soon. And if we don't have people in jobs, the people who are working will pay an extortionate amount of social security to support the old age pensions for all of us that are getting older. The birth rate's also falling, which is another challenge for working people, and we need to really take that into consideration. 5 years ago, we were trying to keep people out. Now we're trying to encourage them here, and we need to do much more to get workers to the island.
I recently kicked off about fire foam in our drinking water. But before we get carried away with cheap food, just think for a moment, why is the food cheap? Because the next battleground is going to be what is in our food. There's no cream in some so-called ice cream. There's linseed oil in fake olive oil. Go across, up and down your supermarket aisles and read the labels for a change. Look at cereals. Look what they add in to make them wholesome. This is something to look out for. Aldi and Lidl, fine, but they're cheap supermarkets. You need to understand why they are cheap. The big food producers are changing the rules to suit themselves. Now, a nice chap called Mike Romerell used to be our chief environmental officer. He wrote and warned the States Assembly that if the population goes over 75,000, life in Jersey will become progressively more unpleasant. Did anyone notice that happen? We're at 110,000 now. My solution is very straightforward. It's something we're good at. We're going to have to build more Jersey. And that means some new reclamation sites somewhere. We can talk about it, check them out, but that is the only serious way forward. And by the way, for decent energy production, I have half a sentence to finish. The tides go up and down twice a day. No need to worry about the sun or the wind.
Thank you.
There's not a great deal left to say. However, I have no objection to Aldi or Lidl. And I've did some research over the last few days in relation to whether they're actually the same price up and down the country. And there are some slight variations depending where you are. My mantra, as you'll be bored of by now, is actually I think we should be producing more food on island, which would hopefully mean that we could actually get cheaper food. It means no transport costs, it helps the environment, and no plastics, because guess what? Everything comes in packages and everything has to leave the island, or we have to incinerate it because it's plastic. In relation to population, again, part of my mantra is that we need to encourage our young islanders to come back to the island. We need to be prepared to train them to do the jobs, not tell them that they're not qualified enough. We need to be helping them more to bring them back. The other thing I think is worth talking about is that if you look along the line of candidates, we're probably all getting slightly older. However, what I would say is maybe we need to start considering incentives to actually keeping some of our older generation actually working longer if they're able and capable to.
I'm afraid I really can't comment on a low-cost supermarket. It's not my area. All I do is listen to other people, and I hear conflicting things. What I do think we can do to help is reduce the supply chains. We've got our neighbours just over there. They produce a lot of good, fresh quality food, and we could be accessing that a lot easier than bringing it strawberries from Spain via Calais, Dover, and back into Jersey. So I think we could be looking at that and improving that. The difficulty with that is once we start doing that, it won't become prettily packaged in nice cartons, and we won't be buying guava and mango. So people have to change their habits. And that creates a problem with a lot of young families because they're time poor. And they don't always have the facilities and some of the accommodation to prepare food. They don't have proper kitchens like they used to, where you can sit down and have proper family meals. So these things start to be interconnected, and we need to start looking at the systems and how we can support that. As for population, I think we're about to see some massive changes in the way we work. We've had, same with the loom, steam engine and other things. AI and other digitization is going to change the way we work. So that's going to free up people and make it more efficient in some areas. So we need to look at how we retrain our population to take other advantages in other employment areas, possibly going to work in Send. There you go, there's one solution. Thank you.
I'm always up for a challenge. The reality is, because of global competition, there are no companies knocking on our door to come in. We have to get out there and persuade people about why they could come to Jersey, and that's right across our economy. But in relation to budget supermarkets, of course, there would be a number of challenges. But they're the same challenges, of course, that every business is facing. The challenges of planning, the challenges of increased bureaucracy that the government puts on them, challenges of increasing wages, and challenges of inflation. So I don't think we should just step back and say, oh, it's all too difficult. It is difficult, but we've got to get out there and make the case. And I, in this election, believe and support making the case for them, because I think the benefits outweigh the disincentives. Population, of course, other candidates have said the big challenge is the amount of working age population to be paying tax, to be paying contributions. And therefore we've got to keep an eye on that. Although the world of work over the next 4 years that you're voting for candidates for is going to change quite dramatically, and skills and upskilling and a knowledge economy is going to be even more important than it's ever been because of the disruptive effect of AI. If we get ahead with that, then there will be good jobs for islanders, but we've got to go out and make sure that we're at the forefront of it. Thank you.
Thank you. I would be very optimistic about either Aldi or Lidl coming to Jersey. The same arguments we've heard about Aldi could equally have been run for Waitrose. Waitrose, I don't think, would normally have one supermarket in a population of this size, let alone 3 of them. So I think if we could get Aldi or Lidl here, they would do very, very well, and we could probably support more than one of them because they have small models. What I would also say, if anybody thinks that they're going to come in and bring the prices that they pay in central Manchester to Jersey, no, they won't. We'll be paying, if we're lucky, central London prices, which will be more expensive. But I was in Orkney last summer. They've got a Lidl. And if they can get to my mind, if they can get to Orkney, which is even further away from the mainland than we are, I think there's no good reason why they can't come to Jersey if we can deal with finding a site and planning and all those other issues that everybody's already talked about, and I think we should try our best to get them here. Population, Yes, I think we probably do need more people because there is nothing we can do. I absolutely believe that there is nothing we can do to change the birth rate because we couldn't pay people to have more babies. You know, if I went to a young person and said, you've got 2 children, if I give you £10,000, will you have another one? The answer is probably going to be no. So we have got to think about how we sustain our population. We will need to bring people in, and it is a competitive world. That's you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're 6 minutes to 9, but because we have so many candidates, I don't think we're going to get an opportunity to take more questions, unfortunately. I'm very aware that there have been a number of hands that have gone up and you haven't had the opportunity to ask your question. Could we make one for 30-second answers and whiz down the line? Is there an appetite for that? No. Raise your hands if you'd like to carry on for a 30-second answer. Okay, I think that answers it. Everyone wants to go home. It's been terrific. Thank you for those of you who've been here. If you would like to go to the vote.je website, if you have got a question that you would like to ask, you will find the candidates' information there. I have been asked just to mention a couple of things before we close. Postal votes need to be received by the GREF by 12 noon, please, on Sunday, the 7th of June. If you're going away, if you're going on holiday, don't worry. You can vote early at the pre-poll station in St Paul's Centre. That's going to be open between the 26th of May and the 1st of June. Of course, election day is on the 7th, as we know. Polling stations are going to be open from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. And a reminder to please take photo ID with you. All information that you need is in the manifestos that should have arrived at your homes, or you can go to the vote.je website. Just before we close, Alan Brecken is going to say the final words tonight. It's customary for one of the candidates to close the evening. It's Alan's turn this evening. So, Alan, over to you.
On behalf of the candidates and yourselves, once again, I'd like to thank our excellent moderator, Heather, who's done a tremendous job and has been keeping us all on. And also to the parish of St Martin for your hospitality. I say that because although this looks very basic, when we were in St Saviour on the 8th of May, they put us all on the stage on chairs. There was no tables, and if we wanted a drink of water, we had to go in the toilet. So I'd like to thank the parish of St Martin for their hospitality, the constable and the staff. But most importantly and finally, I'd like to thank you, the parishioners, for coming along this evening, for paying attention to us for a while and for your questions. It is very much appreciated by all of us. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.